It sucks to get parts made. There's 100,000 machine shops in the US, so why is part sourcing a problem? Figuring out who has the right capacity, who's got material on hand, who has experience with this part, trying to figure that out is a fact-finding mission for which data does not exist today. We're building a really smart data layer on top of these suppliers, so we know, okay, this guy has Invar in stock, this guy can heat treat, this guy can do the finishing, orchestrate the entire supply chain for the customer. They pay one price to Vendra, we figure everything else out, they get a delivered part to their door, so everyone wins in the value chain.
Welcome back to another episode of DIB Innovators, filming again live from the Space Tech Expo in Anaheim. Today I have an awesome guest, Shan Mohta, co-founder, CEO of Vendra. And so he's a basically US-based marketplace that you can source custom parts for, American-made. It's transparent, easy to use. So it's an awesome opportunity, to share his story. Before Vendra, he was part of the Y Combinator 2024 class. And before that, he was doing building hardware for Skydive, Microsoft, Apple. So, Shan, welcome to the show. Super psyched to have you.
Awesome to be here. Thank you for having me.
No, and they know how to have a good time. We were at their happy hour last night, and it was fantastic. So, loved it. All right, so give me a little bit about your time we're building hardware, Skydive, Apple, Microsoft.
Yeah,
you did that. Tell me about some of those experiences. To start off with, let's just go there.
Yeah. No, I mean, so I studied mechanical engineering in college. I went to USC, an hour north of here, basically. Graduated 2017 with a bachelor's in mechanical engineering. Got my first job at Microsoft, where I was a mechanical engineer for the HoloLens system, which is a augmented reality headset. So we built sensors, really cool stuff. It would track your hand. It would, map the room. Commercially, not the most successful product, but it was really, really cool as like a tech demonstration. Yeah. Did a lot of work with suppliers over in Asia. I was designing parts, releasing them, fabricating them, etc. And then after that, Apple approached me for a role on the team that did the Vision Pro. So more headsets, more augmented reality stuff kind of became like a little bit of my niche. I was doing mechanical design, prototyping. I was on a very like Mythbuster style team at Apple where we would get the craziest requests from the product team. Like, hey, we need a headset with like 17 cameras mounted inside a car to like track one specific use case, and we would go like rig like custom hardware. Like my second week of the job, we went and bought a Chrysler minivan and stripped the interior out and retrofitted it with a bunch of sensors to like track occupants using their devices in the car because they needed data on that. So we would like build these really cool data collection systems.
That's cool.
Yeah. So a lot of designing parts, a lot of testing, a lot of working with manufacturers, suppliers. It'll all go back to Vendra eventually in terms of like, how the path led me there. But from there, I then went to Skydive, which is makes the world's best drones, fully autonomous, made in the US. Really cool cameras, really good for search and rescue, ISR. Drone is a first responder. And I was on the camera design team there. So I designed basically all of the user-facing cameras on the Skydive X10 drone. So if you ever watch any police department footage of like the drones and this little blue logo on the top left, it means it's a Skydive drone. And it's probably my camera filming that, which is really cool. So they post a lot of cool PR stuff, and I'm always like, I love seeing that sort of stuff. But yeah, spent my entire career, before starting Vendra, designing parts as a mechanical engineer, kind of.
Did you actually make the cameras, or were you partnering? Obviously, you're partnering with Sony, I imagine.
Sony was a image sensor supplier. We work with camera integrators in Asia, so we did the design here, did a lot of validation and testing here. But for mass production, I work with suppliers on the ground in Taiwan. So I used to travel to Taipei, every like few months and go spend like a week or two with the factory, walking the line, making sure the reliability of the products is good, the image quality is good, etc. So spent a lot of time in Asia, obviously, before going all in on US production.
Yeah. So what brought you then to the idea of Vendra?
So the Vendra journey is pretty convoluted. What you see today in our nice, refined, hey, we make parts for the US, came through like 7 or 8 different pivots that me and Anish did. So we got into Y Combinator summer 24 batch, as you mentioned. We got in selling software for hardware companies to like manage their overseas vendors. And the reason we did that is because I spent so much of my life at Skydive in like 9 p.m. calls with Asian suppliers, talking about projects, details. It was never tracked well. There was always things that were missed. And there was like language barrier, obviously. And I was like, why am I spending like 10, 20 hours of my week on these calls doing the same thing over and over again? So we built a really cool software management platform for hardware companies to work with their international suppliers. We got into YC with that idea. We tried selling it for the first few months, realized no one wanted another software tool in their arsenal of 100 tools. So we were just competing with like Jira or like Notion and like these really established players. And most hardware companies we talked to were like, this is sick, but I'll never use this because you're not going to beat emails and phone calls, which is like the de facto method of communication with these suppliers. And we were like, well, now what do we do? So September that year, we got in June, built that for a couple months. September, we were like, we got to pivot, we got to find something new. So Anish and I, we tried like 8 or 9 different ideas. We had an AI email assistant. We had a bookkeeping assistant. At some point, we were like, we'll build a GPT for car buying. Like we tried everything, like really, really random ideas. But all of our customer conversations with still hardware companies brought us back to, hey, it sucks to get parts made. Can you guys just like help with that? And we're like, look, we're not going to start a machine shop. There's 100,000 machine shops in the US. So why is part sourcing a problem? Is it discoverability? Is it understanding who has what capabilities, materials, etc.? So basically realized, okay, well, there's an opportunity here where we can work with some of these companies who don't want our software, but they want a better way to get their actual hardware manufactured. So then in 2 weeks, Anish vibe coded what was a Vendra V1. And it was just like a front end. It was like really, really broken website. But we got our first RFQ, the day, which is like, customers submitting parts, the day after we launched. And then we got a quote from a local machine. I mean, it was just me and him on the phone lines. We were like, hey, do you have a machine shop? Can you quote a part for me? I'm going to email it to you. Like a completely manual process, no automation, nothing. And the first 10 customers we like onboarded that way and really validated like, okay, there's like real demand coming in. Like people want a better system for part production. And then obviously, I don't know if anything from that original code base is still live or on a user facing console, but yeah, it was a pretty interesting journey to realize that no one wants more software to manage and to use a project management tool. They just want a better system to get actual physical hardware produced.
Do they have software now, or they're sending you a part they need?
They use our software now. So we have a customer facing console, which is really funny. We started with a vendor tool that we couldn't sell, and now we're back at a vendor tool, but helping customers get parts made.
Yeah.
So the objective is obviously different, but the product looks very similar, which is funny. But yeah, we have an entire system that's live now. So they go to the website, they drop in their files. Our software will read it, analyze it, match suppliers autonomously, do the quoting, sourcing, etc.
Why is it so painful, before you came along, why was it so painful to get custom parts? Like, why is this so hard?
They're not like inventory parts. It's not like Walmart's going to stock 100 or 1,000 of these. Everything is bespoke to a customer print or a drawing or a CAD file, right? So you have to first source the material. You have to find a machine that can fit the part, that can hit your tolerances, your finish, your specifications. It's not rocket science. Like, literally, it is rocket science for some of these companies. But like, genuinely making parts is like, it's not rocket science. It's doable. There's, like I said, hundreds of thousands of machine shops in the US. But figuring out who has the right capacity, who's got material on hand, who has experience with this part, who can machine an Invar part and heat treat it 4 different ways and install helicoils and ship it to the customer in 2 weeks. Like, lining up that capacity, trying to figure that out is a fact-finding mission for which data does not exist today. And what we're doing is we're building a really smart data layer on top of these suppliers. So we know, okay, this guy has Invar in stock. This guy can heat treat. This guy can do the finishing. Cool. So we route it here, take it there, go there, orchestrate the entire supply chain for the customer. They pay one price to Vendra. We figure everything else out. They get a delivered part to their door in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or however long it takes. Yeah.
I guess that makes sense. Yeah. Because each type of part is made very differently.
It is. Yeah. And a lot of commodity stuff, like, just basic brackets and stuff, like anyone can make those. And that's not really about what we're selling for. It's funny. People come to us with some really simple parts and I tell them to go use our competitors because they're better at like really simple commodity style parts. But when it comes to like aerospace and defense parts, you have these titanium parts, you have steels, you have aluminums with 5 different kinds of finishing. It takes a lot. Like, there's no one shop that can do all of it. And if they can, they're going to charge you $1 million because they had everything in-house. Right. So typically it requires a lot of orchestration on the supply chain side, which a supply chain manager and engineer is going to have to spend days and weeks figuring out because they're not collecting all that data as it comes back from suppliers. We do. And then we can build our models to be really good at, hey, last time we saw a part that, needed a 3-axis mill and then needed to be anodized, these 2 places were really, really good fit. Let's give it back to them. They have capacity. They have material in-house. They can knock us out of the park. And the customer gets at a good price because it's part that the supplier wants to see that they're good at. And the supplier's happy because they're fed. Their machines are running. Their material's being used. So everyone wins in the value chain.
How many suppliers you got on your software?
It's always expanding. That's why we're here. We're actually meeting with technical suppliers. We're at 200 and something now. But they're not always active at the same time. I think at any moment we have maybe like 50 to 60 suppliers actively working on projects.
Yeah, but they're all in your toolbox where you've got awareness.
Exactly right.
How do you figure out what they do when they onboard? They put in all their...
Yeah. For a while, it was manual, man. I was just calling suppliers and writing down notes like, okay, 3-axis, 4-axis, 5-axis. But we built a pretty cool onboarding pipeline now where they'll actually specify which machines they have, the size of them, the parts they like to see. And then our supply chain team will actually work with them to qualify them. So They'll make test parts for us. They'll do we'll do independent QC. Many times, in most suppliers that are now working on parts for us, we will actually go to their facility and walk the line with them, and make sure that, obviously anyone can say they have 10 machines. If I go to the shop, it's a guy in his garage. It's just like, come on, man. Like, I can't add you to mine at work. Like, we've had stuff like that happen, which is pretty funny. But
Well, that's good you check it out. But
we have to vet it. Yeah, I mean, like these customers we have, they're not okay with the random people making their parts, right? They need to have a level of audit and vetting that has to be done on the supply side.
on a customer base, are you finding like the bigs are coming to you for their projects and their R&D teams, or is it more smaller? Kind of what does your customer look like on that side?
It's all across the board. I mean, we work with publicly traded companies with thousands of employees, and we have like 2-person teams also using us because they're making a nano satellite that's going to be launched to space, and it's just 2 engineers in their garage. So it's all across the board. And for each customer type, we will obviously tailor the supplier match. So, someone who needs 5 of one part is not going to go to a shop who specializes in 10,000 piece production runs. But we do have a lot of aerospace customers that, they start small with us because, again, we're a new company. Like, I understand there's not trust in the beginning. We'll start out with like 1 or 2 parts, build a little bit of trust, get a 5-part order, get a 10-part order. We've graduated pretty fast from just like seeing one-offs to, large aerospace companies now come to Vendra and say, hey, I want 500 of this a month for the next 6 months. And then we fulfill that forecast with our suppliers.
That's cool. What's your biggest order you've gotten so far? If you can measure though, because obviously size matters, but like
Yeah.
the highest units.
The highest units, I mean, we've done like 10,000 part orders. But it's funny, right? Because the 10,000 part orders may be cheaper than like making 10 of one like titanium part. So
Absolutely.
like our biggest POs, I was like well into the 6 figures. Like purchase orders well into the 6 figures. But our largest part, I mean, we did like a 14-foot long like cylinder aluminum turn part, which was like we needed to like. It was funny because we typically use FedEx and UPS. I think I showed you our shipping system to quickly ship packages. We had to book a flatbed semi through some random distribution company and like schedule a pickup, and no one spoke English in the whole system. So there was like a guy who can't speak English talking to me, trying to talk to the supplier who's like, what am I supposed to do with this part? Like, how do I ship this out? It was that part of the business is less fun, but it's cool to figure out.
So where is your most, it's a software, so you're still building software.
Yeah.
Like just internally coming, where do you find you need bodies? Is it to do like this manual shipping stuff? Is that becoming more automated? Like it seems like a great company you could scale without putting a lot of people in.
Yeah, well, our whole methodology is like, I want to scale with as lean of an operations team as possible. That's why we're building a lot of these cool automations, like the shipping agent, like the procurement agent. We have one that can, if a quote comes in from a supplier, it'll automatically parse the inbox and upload the quote to the customer side without us having to do anything. So we're building some automations out, but there's still a lot of manual work required in dealing with suppliers and getting parts quoted. Sometimes they have questions, clarification needed. We have to make sure production's on track because they're not always updating dashboards. So operationally, it's still quite an intense, business. But what's really cool about our automations is, I'll give you a heuristic. One of our top competitors, public traded company worth $5 billion today, they typically require 1 operations engineer for every 2 to 3 suppliers that they have to onboard because they're literally manually dealing with suppliers on the ground. We have 250 suppliers or so, and we have 3 operations guys because of how much of that flow we've automated. Again, those guys are underwater. I need more ops guys. They're struggling, which is fine, which is good because we have demand. But the whole vision is how much of the operational part of manufacturing can we automate and then still have these suppliers who are really good at the jobs actually make the parts on the ground. Yeah. Right? Machine shops in the US who are like kind of the backbone of the defense industrial base, as you know. But it's all that operational stuff that we're trying to figure our way around. But the long answer to your question, the short answer is we need more ops people, working with suppliers, reviewing parts, making sure production's going well. Because it's a high trust business, but if you mess up customer orders, that trust tanks really fast. And they don't want to work with us anymore. And thankfully, we haven't had a major customer churn, but that's the thing that keeps me up at night is I don't want to lose one of the big guys because that's scary.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so how quickly are you scaling?
We're scaling fast. I mean, quarter-over-quarter growth has been like insane. Like we've had 100x growth quarter-over-quarter for the past couple of quarters. Just because demand for production is super, super high, right? So you've seen our booth, I can probably talk about some of our logos here, Vandra, Mock Industries, Relativity, Space, Planet Labs, Capella Space. All these customers started just, small one-off orders, and now we do very, very extended production runs with them. We do high-value POs. We're literally one of their key critical suppliers for like flight hardware. So the parts we make then get launched to space. We have parts in orbit right now that are imaging the Earth. We have parts on launch vehicles that are literally going to get blasted off to space on like the next SpaceX mission, Transporter 17, I think, in a month or so. So it's been cool. I mean, the demand has been incredible. We've had to actually no bid quite a bit of work because we just don't have capacity like internally to manage it. So, that's what I was telling you about. Like, I got to hire as fast as I can to make sure that we can fulfill our customer demands. But again, good problem to have. It's just stressful at times, as you know, scaling a company at this stage.
Always good fun. We talked a little bit last night about some of the AI things, and you briefly mentioned it. How is AI? I mean, the end stage is you're able to scale with less people because you're automating.
Right.
Give just for listeners, just one or two cool use cases with AI that you really and talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna talk about Skipper, as you know. Yeah. So we one of the things that my operations team was doing was spending hours on the UPS and FedEx website making shipping labels, packing slips, because we ship a lot of parts. We're shipping at any day. We're shipping like 100 boxes from suppliers to customers, and these guys were on there nonstop filling out forms, putting in box dimensions, weight, and it was just asinine. Like I was watching them work, and these guys are really good at analyzing parts, not making shipping labels. Like why are they doing this? So Anish spun up an agent that basically my engineering team or my ops team can now go in and say, hey, at Skipper, the penguin from Madagascar is our mascot for shipping. I need a shipping label for this order. Box dimensions is this, weight is this, and it'll go to the FedEx API, UPS API. You can go to the website and fill out the forms. Within 10 seconds, we have shipping documents ready and a package created, ready to go. And those get sent to the supplier automatically. So what used to take a full half hour sometimes just to dimension the box, send the things, like get the FedEx API to work, takes 10 seconds now. So, and it saves so much of our day. Like, it's just the funniest things are like become the bottleneck in the system, right? Like, what should the bottleneck be? It should be production? No, these guys are sitting here making shipping labels. That's one part of it. And we have obviously other agents that I've talked to you about that help with sourcing, matching. We have one that just analyzes CAD. So it'll look at a 3D CAD file, it'll understand exactly what the complexities of the part are, how many holes, cylinders, dimensions, even the weight of the part and density of the part. And then that's how we can route them to suppliers who we know historically are a good fit. So there's a bunch of these running in parallel that, form, and they're all like verticalized, right? So the one agent will just do procurement, one agent will just do code review, one will just do shipping, and they work really well in these silos, and we just kind of create the highway between them so that information flows from RFQ to order to delivered part through a semi-automated system that we use.
Are you a vibe coder yourself?
I do, yeah. I've vibe coded so much stuff. I give it to Anish, and he's like looking at it like this. He's like, this is horrible. Like, I can't deploy any of this. But it's good, guy. I can prototype a lot of stuff now. Like, I'm a mechanical engineer, so like, software is really not my domain. But I have like Claude Code and Cursor open, and I'm like, hey, I think this tool could be helpful. So I'll make like an MVP, hand it over to them. They refine it and deploy it in like a day, and then boom, there we are. So I encourage my whole team, like operations, supply chain. I tell them like, build your own tools. Like, tell us what's helpful. We have a channel that's just called Dev Requests, where anytime they hit a bottleneck on anything, they put a request and say, hey, I spent X much time doing this. It shouldn't be like this. It's wasting time out of my day. Can you guys automate this? And if it's a low lift, we'll put a little green flag on it, start to work on it immediately. And by the end of the day, the automation's rolled out.
I love that.
So we keep a very tight feedback loop on operational efficiency, which is, again, that's what we're all about.
That is cool. Tell me a little about the Y Combinator.
Yeah, YC was really cool. I mean, it's funny. I'm a mechanical engineer. Most MEs don't know about YC. Like, it's a very software centric. You're building cool software products, and you look at their portfolio, right? Like Coinbase, Instacart, Airbnb, really, really cool generational software companies. So, we applied out of a whim. We applied a month after the deadline. I had a nice stable career at Skydive. My co-founder Anish was at General Atomics, rising up the ranks there, doing well. We applied on a Friday morning because I was like, screw it, whatever. What if we get in? This is cool. Friday evening, we get an interview request. Monday, we have the interview. By next Wednesday, we're in. So 4 business days, basically, from like start to end of process. And I'm like, oh, I got to quit my job now and start a company. That's like, go to my manager. And I'm like, hey, man, I got into YC. And he's like, oh, cool. What does that mean? It's like, it means it's my last day. Goodbye. Good luck.
Sorry, no 2 weeks. I apologize.
No, yeah. I mean, we were like, the batch was starting the next week. So we had to speed run it. But the batch was great. I mean, we are still friends with all the founders kind of in the batch. It's a pressure cooker, but you get so much support. So, we're at a dinner with Brian Chesky from Airbnb, and the next day we're meeting the guy who started Coinbase, Brian Armstrong, and we're meeting a guy who started Zip, a procurement system, and they're giving us advice on how to scale a company, hire, fundraise, like the most incredible learning experience. Again, I kind of feel like we wasted it because we were building a product no one wanted the entire time, and only 7 months after were we like, oh shit, this is a cool thing. And then now the company's taken off. But like, yeah, there's a lot of good learnings. We're still in touch with our YC partner. We met him a couple of weeks ago discussing fundraising and next steps and stuff like that. So the community is great. The exposure is great. I've every founder has their phone number listed. You can text them, you can call them. So anyone who's ever done a YC company ever is just like such a insane knowledge base for things. And it's just really good exposure.
Have you relied on it? Have you used it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, last engineer I hired, he was at a YC company before. So I was able to just call the CEO and get a reference check and call him. I mean, anytime I have a question on engineering or support, I'll just make a post. There's an internal social network at YC called Bookface, which is a fun play on Facebook. And yeah. It's a whole thing. But it's a forum where you can vent, you can kind of say whatever you want, and the founders will respond, support you. You can tag requests for help. There's a job board internally. There's like all sorts of deals. Like we haven't paid for AWS since we started the company because they gave us like $500,000 of credits. And we burned through 10K of those a month. And like that would be an enormous expense for us at this stage, but we don't pay for it. OpenAI, same thing. Cloud credits, same thing. So all of these generational software companies that want the new generation of startups to, use their products. And the thing is, it's smart because now we're built on AWS, Gulf Cloud. We can never decouple from Amazon. And that's what they want, right? They rule us in with the free credits, and that's good. It's more power to them. Andy Jassy, the CEO, we met in his YC. He like personally introduced us to the deal they have, which is really, really cool. But yeah, it's an incredible community of very resourceful people and deals and from money to this to that. And obviously they give you seed funding, which is good. It makes it easier to leave, your nice stable career and actually start a company. Otherwise, I think, people who bootstrap it, more power to them. I mean, it's a scary, scary thing to do. We were very fortunate that on our first try, we were able to raise a little bit of money and get the company going.
Talk to me about your fundraising. How many rounds? What have you done?
Yeah. So we did the pre-seed, obviously at YC, $500,000 standard investment. They have a demo day.
What do they do, by the way, at YC? How much is it set? How much equity? Like this?
Yeah. So you give $125,000, 7% upfront. And then they issue the remaining $375K at an uncapped safe, which will convert at whatever your price valuation is. So if I do a Series A at $100 million valuation, it'll convert at that price round or an exit, whatever comes first. So yeah, we did that, got the initial investment. Demo day came around. We had no customers, no product, no nothing. We tried to raise. We had 200 investor meetings. Everyone said no. One of the worst times of my life, but good learning experience.
Absolutely.
Pivoted. It really I think what Anish and I do well is, it was a bit disheartening in that moment. And I think a lot of our peers were kind of stopping the process. Like they could have shutting down the company and not, continuing. And we were able to just persevere and push each other to we were just checking, is everything okay? Like, do we want to keep doing this? What do we do next? How do we try? How do we iterate? So we were very supportive, and it was just two of us for the longest time. And, the next year came around. Like I said, we pivoted, we launched a new product. Humble brag, Apple was one of our first customers, which was, not many startups get to say that.
Yeah.
And really what I do
is that because your relationship?
Exactly, right. Yeah, I went to my whole team and said, hey, I know you guys need parts made because I needed parts made when I was here. Use Vendra. And they cut us one of our first POs, which is really, really cool. And I went to every investor after that and said, hey, I'm a 6-month-old company and Apple's my first customer. Here's what we do. And that's how I started every pitch. And it worked. So we were able to raise a seed round in the middle of last year, raised about $3.5-4 million total across some YC investors, some new investors. And that's obviously given us pretty solid runway. And if all things go well, we're hoping to do a Series A later this year. Scale the team, hire as much as I can.
That's awesome. I love the story. What's your biggest lesson learned building a team, being the CEO, from just you're an engineer, a lot of flexibility, all of a sudden you're now running it. What are some big things or themes principles that you've violated?
Stepping away is hard, right? In the early days, it was me and Anish doing everything. I'm reviewing every part, every RFQ. I'm sitting here on my phone. If I open Slack, there's probably 5 new quote requests that came in, and I know my ops team is handling it, but it took me the longest time to sort of build the trust in the team around me to offload some of that work. Because man, I was dying. I was reviewing RFQs. I'm in contract negotiations with suppliers. I'm fundraising because you're always fundraising. You're always talking to, investors, things like that. I'm trying to do marketing. I'm trying to do sales, customer success. It was way too much for one person, and it still is too much for the team that we have. But I think learning to let go of some responsibilities and trusting that the team we built around us will be able to pick things up, I think is very hard as an engineer. As an engineer, at Skydive, I want to do everything. I'll design every part. I'll release every part. I'll test every part. And you can do that if you're owning a subassembly, but you can't do that if you're running a 10-person company anymore. So I think, stepping away and building that trust, I think was a good lesson. And Yeah, I think I've, started as a poor manager. I don't think I'm a good manager still, probably in many, many ways, but, like motivating the team around you to put in the grind that is required to build a successful company. I think like there's an art to that. And I think I'm slowly learning how to keep the team motivated, especially through like really, really hard, busy, tough periods. If you have advice there, I would love to hear about.
No, it is a challenge.
Yeah.
Well, I was curious because you hear in Silicon Valley, they were doing for a while. It was 9/6s, so 9 to 9.
996. Yeah.
Yeah, nine nine
A lot of
six.
companies still do that. We specifically don't, and I'll tell you why in a second. But yeah,
Well, I'm curious. You know, are all your folks? We live in Colorado. People don't
Yeah.
sign up for that in Colorado. There's a work-life balance mismatch.
Yeah.
So we have to be extremely efficient and prioritized because we don't have time to go off. We just don't have the bandwidth to compete with the folks out, in California or Silicon Valley. How do you look at that? And is it hard to find people or do you ask people to work that hard? And how do you tell them to do that? Or is it just through motivation of mission and excitement and seeing that you get the right
mission, excitement, valuation in the future.
Yeah.
It all keeps people motivated. But it's tough, man. We're pretty upfront in the hiring process that like, hey, this is an early stage company. Like it could go upside down tomorrow. We can lose all our contracts in overnight if we mess everything up. Like there's inherent risk, but the upside is very, very high if we are able to become a generational company in the space that we're in. Obviously, we're seeing demand signals that point towards success, which is really, really good, but we can't take that for granted, right? So the entire team knows that every part, every order, like there has to be such like perfection and attention to detail in how we do work. And I'm very clear about that, in the hiring process. Like, hey, you may have to be working some weekends. You may have to drive to a supplier, in the middle of the night to be there at 6 a.m. to make sure that part ships on time. And we've had to do stuff like that. But I think that because the outcome is so cool, I mean, we ship physical parts. It's not like there's some software outcome or like, oh, cool, their KPIs went up by 3%. It's these guys can launch parts to space because Vendra shipped them parts on time.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
And that is super. And our office is littered with parts because our suppliers make spares of everything. And we're just like, send them to us. So we have like aerospace panels and this and that. We have like GPS tracking things. Like it's super cool. People like see the workspace around them. And we're very, very intentional about everyone being in the office 5 days a week. Yeah. So 8 a.m. we start, 9 a.m. we have a stand up, 6 p.m. we have our evening stand up, kind of caps off the start and end of the day. And then we do admin work, operational work. We don't do 996 because suppliers don't work on 996. So why would I have my ops team come on the weekend and every supplier's at home with their kids?
It's true because you're not. I mean, a lot of it's not software development. They will.
Yeah. But on the weekend, it's funny. I don't know if other companies do this, but we assign like homework tasks. So we'll say, hey, you have to clean up this side of the dashboard. You have to check in on these orders with the supplier if they respond to you. Let's build a pipeline for suppliers. I'll build a pipeline for customers. We do a lot of like admin work, housekeeping, bookkeeping over the weekends, and then we kind of hit the ground running 5 days a week, in the start of the week. And yeah, I think the mission and like literally physical parts motivate these people. And they like seeing the outcome.
Yeah, no, that outcome is cool. Yeah, and they can't screw it up. Like to your point, it's like it's like we do security. We can't screw that up.
Well, I mean, it's funny you mentioned that, right? Like we're ITAR. We have an ITAR secure environment. You obviously know way more about this than I do, but every ITAR violation is a $500,000 fine for the government. And I tell my team this on when they onboard. It's like we have an ITAR environment. We have a secure enclave. We have a role-based access control. Everything in ITAR has to be treated with we can't even like, if you're at a Starbucks, don't join the ITAR network. If you're in public Wi-Fi, don't do it. If there's, you have to be so careful. Like you can't store files locally. And we drill that into them on the compliance side so that they know that there's like real, consequences to, we're 5 or 6 strikes away from running out of money,
Right.
which I don't want to be. I don't want to be in that position.
Okay, so in 5 years, where is Vendra?
Oh, that's a good question. In 5 years, Vendra is still producing parts for aerospace and defense as a highly successful approved supplier for basically any company that's building regulated parts, whether it's launch vehicles, ground systems, satellites. We want to be one of the core suppliers that's supplying the defense industrial base for metal parts, plastic parts. We want to go into electronics as well. So PCB fabrication, assembly. There's a lot of stuff that's still a bottleneck today. But we don't have the bandwidth to solve today, and we're obviously, finding what bits and pieces of it we're good at. But any sort of mechanical, electrical, custom hardware that is required for the United States to succeed as a company, longer term, we want to be supplying and be the mister.
That's awesome. Well, Shan, we're gonna have to wrap it up.
Okay, no worries.
Thanks for joining me. It's so great meeting you here in California.
Yes.
For this, and we'll stay in touch for sure. But if folks want to order parts for you, send in a RFQ, or how best do they follow you, get in touch?
Follow us on LinkedIn. I'm always posting. The company's pretty active. Connect with us, or we would love to chat. If you want to submit some parts, go to vendra.io. There's a form at the bottom. You put in your name, upload your files, we'll start the process, and we'll get you quotes back and get production started as fast as same day.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Sean. It's been great.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.